First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the Exceed Roundtable series, the Wholesale Crisis Management. And we wanted to thank you all for joining us. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Anel. I'm here with Exceed Network, the community's nonprofit business advisory organization. I want to thank you guys for joining us. And throughout this crisis, Exceed Network has been available to make sure that everyone's needs are met and that no one's neglected or turned away. Our executive director, who's here with us today, Erwin Dayan, he's been available, as well as volunteer mentors who are here to answer your questions and offer guidance. If anyone feels that they need more than just this roundtable, please feel free to reach out to us after. You can send me an email or Erwin. I'm going to be posting it in the chat box. I'll explain how to use that in a moment. Please remember that this is an interactive roundtable. Okay, we want to hear your questions. We want to make sure that we're getting to you and hearing what's on your mind. So please feel free to ask your questions either audibly, or you can message them to me privately. For those of you who want to remain anonymous, I'll explain how to do that momentarily. Also, we just wanted to thank our panelists and introduce them. Today we have Eli Yedid, president of RBX, and Saul Wahba, who's president of Nuvo Access. They are both Exceed board members and very excited to be speaking with us all today. So without further ado, Eli and Saul, take it away.
Sure. Erwin, did you want to say a couple of words?
I was going to say it at the end, but I'll say it now to get it out of the way.
You know what? Sorry, you're the most important guy, so wait till the end. There's not that many people on yet.
No, you're on.
Yeah, so thank you, whoever's here on time. Thank you for coming. This is something we've been doing to sort of help everyone feel the lay of the land in wholesale. Wholesale has not been a good area to be in right now in the economy. Not that there is any really good ones, but wholesale is a really challenging, multifaceted animal with a lot of tentacles, and we're here for you. We're here for you specifically. I could go on for an hour and a half talking about what I think and what I do, some of which I will do, but for the most part, I really want participation, because I want to try to feel you out and answer questions that you're struggling with, that you want to throw up against the wall and see what someone else might think. No questions are stupid. Actually, some have been, but all kidding aside, there's no bad questions. Saul and I have many years combined, too many that we want to admit to, but we are here to talk about a lot of other topics. The topics, I think, Nell, can you tell us if everyone has the topics that we're ready to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to be posting them in the chat right now.
Okay. So it's not rocket science. There's the big hot topic today is the credit market crisis, which I could tap in on a little bit. You know, employees, how you're going to furlough, bring back. We are not. This is not a PPP. We know a little bit about it, but we're not experts in PPP. Just throwing that out there. Credit market, customers, China, the renminbi. Those are the things. Revenue projections, expenses, how to manage your business through the crisis. That's what we are prepared to talk about. So, would you like to say a couple of words?
First, I want to reiterate the questions are the most important part, because there's things on top of people's minds that they need to field out, and that's something we can do it here.
Saul, we need you to speak up a little bit.
We'll also have additional saying. Can you hear me guys now?
You're gonna have to speak up.
All right, let's try without a mic. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there are any questions, that's really what we're promoting here. What I'm going to discuss a little bit is learning on how topics such as how to pivot your business, looking for new product opportunities, and understanding alternatives for distribution that you may be accustomed to, and being able to read the world to what demand is looking like, how it's going to play out in the future. And what we're going to call the new normal is probably a better normal, where we'll be more efficient at the way we make our presentations, meet with customers, and get our products into their hands. So with that, we can either get started with some of the questions, or we can go into just some of the topics that we prepared.
Yeah, so does anybody want to begin with a topic that they're most interested in hearing about? Otherwise, I'll just start with the credit crisis, because that's the by far and away the most pressing matter that I've been hearing and I've been experiencing myself. So here has had some credit problems with retailers. Just raise your hand. Let me see how many. A lot of you aren't on. Okay, I see Albert there. Al, okay, good. Alon, you're all good with the credit market. I'm assuming everybody's in wholesale over here. If you're not, it's fine, but that's really what this is about. So depending on which.
No, not okay, Eli. Sorry, I don't know how to put on my thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm-
Henry, I see Henry raising his hand. You're having some problems, right? Okay, good.
Henry's on mute, but he's having a
I
problem.
don't mean good. I mean good. Let's talk about it a little. So even this morning, a major retailer went out of business. We all know it's called Tuesday Morning. Stage Stores was last week. J.C. Penney, and there's Macy's has been pulled back a lot. I know that even good credit customers have been reduced. So someone who had $5 million credit only has $1 million credit line. The big problem here is that everybody's getting bucketed, and because stores are closed, if you have stores closed, you're automatically getting a reduction or no credit. I noticed that two of my dear friends are also in the banking business. They're signed on over here. So Jackie and offered a day capital. That was not a plug for them, even though I would plug them. The factoring community and the credit insurance community treat things a little differently. For my experience, for the most part, is through the credit facility, through credit insurance, Coface, Euler, and Mays. Raise your hand if you work with any of those companies. Anyone? Okay, so this is mostly a factoring. I see Joseph over there.
Yeah, Joseph.
It's hard enough right now to get orders, right? It's hard enough to get customers that want orders to ship. Then you have to worry about like who's credit worthy, and then you have to worry about specifically trying to get more coverage than they'll give you, or even get some coverage. So you're not alone here. Everyone is in the same boat. So there's a bunch of ways to get around this problem. The first way is to negotiate your way out of it, to negotiate with the retailer. If the retailer doesn't have credit, the best way that I see fit is to put a little pressure on the customer to work out a deal with the factor or the credit insurance company, because you're really the middleman here. It's not like I'm not, giving you credit. It's you're not getting credit. It's not, I'm sort of the middleman here. And prepayment is not as bad as it used to be. There is some customers that if they want your product good enough, well enough, they will talk about, prepaying partially. We've had some of that. We've had some people who would prepay in full. Then there's also the common sense thing that you only ship for the credit amount that you get and you don't take personal risk, because everything that we talk about today, everything that I talk about is going to be a little bit about just surviving this mayhem, surviving so that you could get into 2021 and beyond. Because the companies that don't navigate correctly, unfortunately, I know a lot of them, I don't think they're going to be able to make it to 2021 if they don't take these things very seriously, like your credit and not getting hit with too much of a hit, and watching your expenses. I can go on and on about credit market crisis. I really want to hear specifics with you guys, if you have any. So if you don't, I'll pass it to Saul to talk a little bit about that. But my experience has been very difficult to get anyone approved, even top tier guys. I've been getting hit with the dilemma of whether or not I have to ship them, whether my licensees have to ship them, based on their own thinking that this is a knee-jerk reaction credit crisis, because it really is. Outside of a bunch of really bad apples in this cart, for the most part, this is a knee-jerk credit crisis where insurance companies are getting very scared and they're just pulling the plug on everything.
But that's the tie-in. The tie-in is that if stores were closed for any period of time, there's a concern about the insuring community, how things are going to look when they open. If they were stuck in some of the categories that were hit a little bit harder or have seasonal merchandise, that's where the concerns are coming about. But how many of you here are sitting with strong inventories? I'll say aggressive inventories. I see Al and Nori, Alon, Albert, Joseph. So inventory and Eli too. So inventory is the primary issue here. And you probably had slowdowns before this crisis started in getting some of your products through the ports and getting your orders in for spring. I'm going to guess those inventory issues may be stale inventory at this point. Are they seasonal? Are they a seasonal inventory they're concerned about? Yes, that's so that the seasonal inventory is where the key is going to be here, and you don't want to take too hard a hit in trying to go through the off-price markets. So if you're chasing those buyers in the off-price markets, what's going to happen is they're going to see how desperate you are and push into your pricing. If your inventory or some of your inventory can be sold later on in the season, let's say a month or two from now, and you can carry the financial burden of holding on to that inventory, you possibly be in better situation. Some of the new store openings that or the store openings that occurred down south, we saw some very big rushes to those stores. So people had pent up demand. I think it was TJ Marshall's videos that went out there where people were pushing and shoving to get into stores and the lines that were there. So people may have some capital. They're looking to buy things that will make them feel a little happier. If they've been through some of these tough times, they're looking to buy things that are promotionally priced. So looking at it from that angle, and I think Elon has a question if you want to take it now, if you want to go off mute.
I just wanted to let you, we did have seasonal product. We had a couple 100 grams worth of seasonal product that we immediately flipped and got into FBA. And we sold through about 50% of that inventory in the last 40 days. Just for anybody's information, we did not want to wait at all. We instantly created our FBA listings. The items began selling. I would encourage anybody to start setting it at your ideal wholesale price, even though it is a retail price on Amazon, and then monitor how it starts to move. Because like I said, in our situation, we had a couple 100 grand worth of seasonal items, which specifically are inflatable paddle boards for stand-up paddle boards that would have been sold possibly to Sierra or somebody of that nature. And we've sold through, like I said, this is a $300 retail item. We've sold through at least 50% of the merchandise in the last 40 days.
That's great. Alon, can you give us an idea, give everyone an idea of what the retails would have been at Sierra versus or the cost you would have gotten?
That's the funny thing. We were so desperate to dump these products the second that Corona hit that we probably would have sold them under our cost. Sierra was looking to retail these at about $169. We're getting $249, $279, and $299 on Amazon. It's selling piece by piece, but again, if we were sitting there with 1,400 pieces, we sold through a good amount in the last 40 days at real profit. So the costs of the goods have almost been recovered, and that has definitely been very, very encouraging and helpful for us because we thought we were dead in the water.
So that's a great concept, and that's not always available to some of the people who are on this call because you're in the hard goods marketplace. You have a brand that people recognized and assisted it. So if you look at the categories of sales, anything to do with general merchandise and hard goods were actually up in the past month and a half. And the general merchandise group was up 10% in sales overall as compared to clothing and apparel, which because a lot of it bricks and mortar, touch and feel was down 50%. But I have been speaking to some wholesalers that immediately moved their inventory into FBA programs or created multi-packs. If you're selling products that are $2.99 retails and $3.99 retails, you need to have a multi-pack so that you bring that FBA sale over $7 or $8 just for you to be able to pull out your costs.
Well, the other thing that might be helpful to people is the fact that because you're controlling the price and you can change it at any time, that setting your retail price at your actual wholesale price when people are sorting by lowest price normally is highly effective. Even in terms of, for example, my father's a major lingerie importer, even in terms of a 3-pack basic panty, like you said, that's probably $5.99 at Ross stores, but would retail for about $11.99 in a department store. If you stick that on Amazon at $4.99, $5.99, I think that you start to see a lot of movement.
So that's absolutely true. There was also a tremendous demand for seller fulfilled on Amazon. I'll touch on to that too, almost on the e-commerce part of the business. And Amazon was not able to fulfill their orders for the first 3 or 4 weeks into the crisis. And there was a much higher demand for overpriced, higher priced product that was seller fulfilled. So if you have that opportunity and you don't want to release your goods, you're uncomfortable with shipping goods to Amazon, you're not in that business, you can test the waters slightly, but seller fulfilled sells much slower. You're going to have to promote it, or you're going to have to advertise those listings, and you really need a brand so people are looking for that brand.
I just have one last comment in regards to that, and I am somewhat of an Amazon expert, but the reality is the more product that you put into Amazon's warehouse, the better the algorithm is going to be for you, because Amazon makes an awful lot of money processing people's orders through their warehouses, and their algorithm takes into the rank. If you have 7,000 pieces in Amazon, Amazon knows they could do business. If you have 4 pieces in Amazon, they know they're going to sell it out in 3 seconds and it's going to be gone. So we've found that sometimes putting more goods into FBA than less significantly increases your rank based on the algorithm.
Absolutely does. And
Alon,
it's put into reserve, and then they release it out of reserve as they move it around some of the different warehouses. So that's some of the, when you put more quantity in, it moves.
Alon,
Yes.
is the alternative shipping to the consumer directly from your facility as opposed to shipping it from them? Is that
So our company's playbook has everything set to FBA, and once we're down to, let's say, 50 pieces on a particular listing, we will enable the FBM as well, so the consumer then can choose if they're taking it out of Prime or from FBM, and then subsequently we don't lose any rank. We don't lose any rank by switching to FBM, as opposed to losing rank which you do when your product becomes sold out.
Does anybody here sell Amazon Wholesale? Does anybody in Amazon
The vendor central.
vendor seller?
I have a question for Elon. Right now, I'm doing FBA and FBM at the same time, and thank God they're both doing well. Is that okay to do them both at the same time?
The major advantage of doing FBM is that you're provided with consumer information such as their address. If you have the ability to log all of that information and understand who your consumer is and formulate a plan to follow up with that consumer in the future via the information that you have gotten from FBM, then it can be very valuable. FBA does not provide you any.
Right.
Alon, I didn't plant them in there because we want you as an advisor on Exceed, I promise.
No. If I'm talking too much, tell me to shut up. But the reality is that
No.
I like it.
we created a lot of cash. We created a lot of cash in the. I mean, again, I don't. We created, let's call it $400,000 in the last 40 days of cash, which was product that was sitting in our warehouse that we were crying, saying, who's going to give us $70 a piece for these?
Yeah. So everybody has different challenges. My company's wholesale challenge is that my retails and my prices, no matter how hard we try, it just and in other businesses that we're flying with Amazon. But it's very price centric. So I found that to do FBA business, the average retail has to be at least $25 for the item for it to be successful, meaning to make enough money at the end of the day to go with all the costs incurring.
Well, if you're talking, my only solution in terms of that is, for example, let's say we're talking about the baby business. I think it's a business both me and you are familiar with.
Yeah.
If the standard is that Ross is buying a 5-pack for a $6.99 retail, I'm making it up, then the way to beat Ross online is to, and again, you may have to invest or lose some money to get your listing really firing out. But I think the reality is that if you created a 12 or 15 pack bodysuit and decided that you were going to sell 1,000 of them at $7.99 just to get your reviews and your traction going, that
Right. So, okay. So
price is not the only thing that matters on Amazon.
we won't spend a lot more time on this. We'll move on. But is there like in your mind, is there a profit potential to do like a lost leader just to get the ranks up as opposed to actually scaling a profitable business?
I equate, so reviews are the most important thing on Amazon, more important than price. Basically more important than anything, because if one guy's got an item that's $10 and one guy's got an item that's $17 and the $10 item has 2 stars and the 17 has 5 stars, they go with the 17. So the reality is that investing, you could call it investing, you could call it losing money, you could call it whatever it is, in your product to garner rank and reviews in the long term on Amazon is what's going to let you win every time.
Right.
That means that, I mean, to put that into perspective, that means you need to build a better product. Your product
That means Ross may not be willing to take in a 12-pack kids bodysuit that comes with a free crib. But on Amazon, you could design whatever you want.
Unless, Elon, you put together a kit and you create a bodysuit with another
Bundle. That's what I'm saying.
You bundled it, but then building up the ranking on a new listing, it takes a bit of time, and it's really price sensitive. So you start really low at your price and you slowly can increase it, whether it be a nickel, a dime, or a quarter.
I don't think there's any price sensitivity. I think that you have to understand the marketplace so that when somebody hits search by price and they set lowest to highest, you're within the top 5. So you do that for a month, you lose $2,000, and then 2 months later, when you have all the reviews and you have all the value, then you can set your price to wherever it should really be.
How many people on this call actually have gone into selling on Amazon who wasn't or have been there? I mean, who has experience? Is there 4 or 5 people here? So I don't know if how much this topic pertains to everybody else, but it's obviously an alternative marketplace for wholesalers, where you've always looked at it as something where you didn't want to get involved. The price point was too low. Elon has a specialty here with a higher price point item where it makes some sense. So something to consider there. Now,
It's very unique. It's very unique in our community types of businesses. Just like Elon, he's very unique. He's always looking for new classifications and.
Well, I mean, the reality is I tried to stop selling retailers in 2007. So it's about 13 years that I've tried to not sell. And the only current real retailer that I deal with is Spencer Gifts, and they're on thin ice with me.
So
let's move to a more core wholesale topic right now. I want to talk a little bit about expenses. I want to make sure that everyone here is doing their part, or if they're curious about how other people are doing it, how they're managing their expenses. Wholesale generally has a bunch of ratios that we work with. I think the biggest and most important ratio is knowing what your cost to revenue percentage is. So, just simple dirty math. If you do $10 million and you have $1.5 million in overhead, you have a 15% sales to expense ratio. Everybody knows that 2020 is going to be an extremely light year, unless you're selling toilet paper or Purell. We all have to do our part to make sure that our expenses are in line with our sales. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the same as it was before, but if you were doing $10 million and your overhead was $1.5 million, then if you're going to do $5 million this year, you're generally speaking, you want to try to stay into the same range that you were before and try to get your overhead and expenses to the $750,000 range. I'm not saying that
that's a major challenge, Eli, to go through that.
I'm saying that should be the goalpost.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm not saying that if it's $1.1 million or $1.2 million, then you're out of business. But what I am saying is I want everyone in my view, to concentrate a little bit about on a macro level, what's my expenses? How am I going to survive through the year? Do a little P&L, look at a projection, look at your forecasts, say, if I'm not going to do the 10 million and I'm going to do the 5, what can I do? Every single line item on your expense sheet should be looked at, because we've been through what I would call like a very gas pedal mentality, hit the gas pedal, hit the gas pedal. It's very easy to justify expenses as you're growing and as customers want more items and you're selling more retailers. We've gone through like a 10-year robust gas pedal ride, and it's not natural, and a lot of people don't really know how to do that as much as I think they should.
Well, if you want to tie that into a dollar amount, it's a general rule of thumb that every dollar you save in expenses equates to almost $4 to $5 in sales, depending on where your margins are. So if you know your sales are going to be dropping 50%, you could do that mathematical equation and structure your business, or start to shift some of your expenses to variable expenses that are tied directly into your sales. If you can do that, depends on what cuts you can make and how you can possibly take things to off-price areas. And sorry, I'll let you continue.
No. Who here understands the concept of fixed versus variable expenses? Raise your hand because if you want us to get into that, we can get into that. A couple of guys that didn't raise their hands. So what Saul's saying is that certain expenses are tied to your sales, and certain expenses are fixed either way. Doesn't matter what you sell, you'll get, you have the same expense if you sell 10 million or 5 million. So what Saul's saying, and it's a very, very important thing to focus on, is to change your deals as much as possible to do a variable as opposed to a fixed expense if you can. Certain things are fixed like rents, but warehousing could be a variable expense as opposed to a fixed expense.
Well, your sales costs can be changed into giving someone a commission compared to having salary and readjusting it over time.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. It's a very nimble.
Look at your opportunity. I call it inventory of opportunities. Is what inventory do you have that you could sell in the next 30, 60, 90, or 180 days, and look what the percentage or the probability that you can sell that inventory profitably, and start to attack inventory, because that's where your opportunity is now. If you're cash strapped and you're not able to bring in additional new goods, you have to take a hard look at what you have. How's that going to get me through the next 30, 60, 90, 180 days? And this will go further than that, but that's the first process and the first step. Exactly as Elon did, said, hey, I have this inventory, I got to move it. Let me put it online. Let's move it now. Let's drop the price, generate the cash flow. Also reducing, if he was in a public warehouse, reducing his storage expenses. So there are things that are tied together. And if you're factoring, you don't have a cost because that's based on specific to your sales. Warehousing, factoring, so many other things. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, no, look, before we move on, does anybody have any expense-specific comments or questions that they want us to address?
Yeah, there's the question about the DIP. You saw that? Did you see that?
Well, hang on a second. I think Leon's asking what has an expense question.
Okay.
Leon.
Yeah, I had a question about rents, I guess. Showroom rents. What's your suggestion or recommendation on how to negotiate that? Is there any standard, or what are people doing in general for, I guess, showrooms?
I could give you an answer. Saul, maybe we could both take a step. I have a bunch of friends in real estate. They're all saying that they're having a hard time collecting. So I think cash is king. You want to, it's a very personalized answer depending on your specific situation. If you have a bigger landlord or a boutique landlord, how long you have left on your lease versus if you're really locked in long term. So if you're locked in long term and you're part of a bigger company, it's going to be hard for you to negotiate out of it. But I've been able to, and other people have been able to in some cases, to get serious rent reductions in order to stay. I know some people who have had zero luck. They said, middle finger up, pay me, or we're going to court with you. So So it is very specific, but what I would say is that you can negotiate your way out of it, and you have to be creative with what your landlord might want. So for example, one person said, I got the PPP, so I'm gonna give you, if you agree to a concession, I'll give you 3 months up front right now because I just got that money and I'm not, and I have to either give it back or sit in an account that's not making any money. So you could use that leverage for cash flow to say, I'll give you 3 months, but you have to give me, you have like, I don't know what your rent is, how much space you have, but let's say you can get a 10 or 15% reduction in rent for the rest of the year for that 3-month prepayment. So it's a give and take, but I would absolutely encourage you to not to hold back on paying until you get some concession.
So I've had a bit of experience that went both ways on a few different rent negotiations. And I tie it back into what was my relationship with that landlord over a long period of time. If I had a long history with that landlord, I've always been paying on time, and they understand, or they listen to understanding if the business has been closed. I've gotten in one case a 3-month reduction for half of the rent or 50% of the rent. In other cases, people did use the PPP strategy and say, look, I'll be able to pay you these 2 months, but I'm going to need some help in July or August because I don't know what that's going to look like. But holding back the rent has been a decent strategy if you've not paid the April or May rent. And it's dependent on where you are. And those conversations I've gone back and forth. It's a bit of horse trading specific to your relationship with them. But the larger the landlord, the less flexible, or they could be the more flexible they'll be because they realize that without you there, they're going to have to go find a new tenant in this economy, and that's not as easy as anybody might think.
Are you in arrears? Do you owe them money?
Yes.
I implore you to hold and negotiate as best as you can instead of just paying. I think it's a smart move.
All right, if you could hold out another few months with them and just say business is impossible, we can't open. Are you in a showroom building? You're worrying about a warehouse building, Leon? All right, he's on mute.
I don't even think they can evict you until September 1 right now. So
I don't think they get close till January, but you're looking at what's.
Yeah, they're looking to extend it, but pay your rent and stay on. And
Actually,
you're talking about your showroom.
Sorry. So anyone else have any other expenses? Okay, so I think another hot topic is employees. We all either applied or got or didn't get a lot of the PPP money, and some of that is forgivable, some of it isn't. Most of it went into payroll, 75%. It's an ever-evolving world of changes, and they're even looking at it now based on, so if you're in New York and you got PPP money and you weren't able to open your office, like, is it really limited to the 8 weeks from when you got it? That's not going to be the case. They say that's going to get changed. So I think before you talk about which the dog and the tail and the body of the dog, it's very important. It's very important to do what's most important for the business first, and then see how that fits into your expenses and what's going to be forgiven, even if you got the money. So just because you got the money, it doesn't mean you should pay out and have and have employees that the business doesn't necessarily need 100%. That's my perspective here. I'm very much a believer in watching all your expenses, what you need. The tail doesn't wag the dog. I wouldn't hire people that the company doesn't need because we got some PPP money that we think is going to be forgiven. That's my opinion.
I hold a similar opinion. You want to look at this as a long-term strategy. What's it going to require for your company to survive long-term? And if you don't need the people, or you can make offers to them to pay for performance in some way, that's some other ideas. But you cannot really sustain if you brought back employees that were furloughed, and you cannot sustain it if your location is still closed and if business is going to change the way we know it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I have had so much positive, good reaction from people. They just want to be spoken to. Some, like if you had someone that you were paying a lot of money and they were doing a great job for you over 10 years, and that number is fixed in someone's mind, like, a CFO who was doing a phenomenal job was making 200. The price has changed for what employees and their availability of other employees are out there have changed tremendously too. So you should be very mindful to know that there is other employees that can do the same work that you've been getting, and even the people that you've had. I would absolutely negotiate new prices based on what we talked about earlier, your expense to sales ratio, and explaining it to them. I find has been very positive, getting positive results.
Being upfront with them and discussing.
And yeah,
you got to be also ready to roll up your sleeves. If you guys haven't figured out how to make your own invoices or get some of your shipments out, that's some of the things you're going to need to do and try to take over the losses that you had there. And another thing that's going to come into play is some of the lower level employees that might have gone on unemployment are making more on unemployment with the $650 bonus than they would be coming back to work. So that's a concern on the labor force and how that's going to work. I don't think the House and the Senate are fighting over this concept of extending unemployment all the way through January, which will really hurt us much further, even though people will have cash flow, but they will not want to come back to work.
Does anybody have any employee-specific questions that they want to discuss?
Yes, I have a question. Give me 1 second. Let me just walk out of here. What about somebody that's working, for example, on commission? If the sales are down, then is there a reason to lower his commission, or?
I'm all about margin when it comes to commission, but I'm gonna let Saul handle that one.
If you're profitable that way, you may want to increase their commission. I hate to say that. If your margin is there, if you can maintain your margin, and
Yes.
You want to keep somebody that's good, you may want to say, look, I'm giving you a short-term bonus. Whatever goods you sell now is a bonus. I don't know what your commission structure is, but that'll help move some of your inventory and giving them incentives. I've done these 30-day programs where whatever you sell that month, there's a bonus commission on it. Well, as compared to reducing someone's commission, which is really a mind screw and really messes with people. So you're taking away their opportunity.
Joseph, is it a strictly commission situation?
Yes.
Strictly commission. Are they full-time working for you?
Full time.
Okay. So then, I mean, that's an overall package. I think that's an overall package. Just because you structured it that way, if they're a 1099 or a full-time employee, I don't know what exactly it is, but in my view, I'm a big believer in make and take, especially if there's no base salary. I would incentivize them to sell more, and I wouldn't. So this is a good segue. This is overseas. We're gonna because margins are all about prices and what you're getting and sales are growing. But I would look at the person's overall performance package and make a decision as opposed to just thinking about it as a number, a commission sales number. Margins. Everybody is waiting to see when the stores open, and I know a lot. I have a big network. I have a lot of licensees. I have a lot. Retail prices, especially in the value channel and the clubs, have been very challenging to sort of get on the same page as the retailers as before. I know I'm a big fan of maintaining retails. So if your item was a $29.99 item or a $9.99 item, and you have some inventory in your warehouse, it's inventory is very important. Outside of trendy inventory, outside of very seasonal-ish inventory, inventory is not a bad word right now. If it's a basic essential inventory, and it's a time to not allow retailers to take advantage of you if you hopefully don't have that much inventory. So I'm valuing inventory at a good level, because I don't think that the retailers have the right to lower retails just because they haven't been in business. I think people are going to the stores. People are going to start shopping again. They're going to need your product, and try to maintain your retails as much as you can. Don't get desperate if they call you and say, my $9.99 item, it has to go at $6.99. Tell them to wait a little. Let's try it at $9.99. If it doesn't work, we'll discuss it. If it doesn't work at $29.99, we'll discuss it. But just dropping your retail is very hurtful, especially, you know, with much lower sales that we're going to be having. You have to try to keep your margins up.
You actually have to try to increase your margins with the lower sales. But there was a question that came up on the board on a segue we passed over about what DIP meant, which is debtor possession. If you don't mind, I will answer that, speak about that a little. When a retailer goes in, there's usually into Chapter 11, there's usually a finite debtor in possession package that's financed. So it's very specific to what that is, and usually you're safe within a short period of time shipping into DIP, but you really need to dig into the numbers. One strategy that I've used with retailers that I thought were going to go bankrupt is using, or in DIP, is using a UCC reclamation and reclaiming my inventory. So the law provides that within 15 days of you shipping a customer, you can put a reclamation in, which is basically just an envelope that you send FedEx to somebody in the higher ups of the organization, saying that you wish, and you could Google this and find it, you wish to reclaim your goods. So what that does, it puts you in a different stratosphere of debtor. You actually become a secured debtor if they did not return those goods to you in the exact condition and actually the exact quantity. If they even sold one piece of your item, that they wouldn't be able to do that. And that's protected me over the years in a few different bankruptcies that I thought were teeter-tottering, and we decided to ship the goods because we had the inventory or it was custom made. I've got caught on letters of credit sometimes during that, when a letter of credit was being drawn down multiple times, and the bank decided during an uncertain period to pull that letter of credit right before I shipped, and I had to hold on to those goods. And eventually we shipped in DIP, and I almost automatically put out a reclamation.
Yeah.
And then I think there was another question in the Zoom chat about surviving 2020, and it was about what's your strategy and what strategies do you suggest. And I think Eli's touched a little bit on that. What strategies you suggest to get through this tough 2020? If you want to touch on that.
Specifically, the thing that's going to hurt anyone is not managing your expenses. You just have to really navigate and look at your expenses and make sure there's no fat. What Saul said, nothing wrong with being hands-on and getting your hands dirty. You don't, if you could even, you know, I hate to say it, but if the more people you can get rid of right now, you should. I'm sorry to say it, just to survive. You'll bring them all back in 2021. God willing, you'll survive. But the point here is for 2021 and beyond will happen if you do survive this. So expenses is the key. And you know, if you have a specific question on how to survive, another one is be careful. Don't get caught in this credit trap. Don't ship people more than you can handle. No one should be 10% of your business or more. So don't take too big of a risk. If your factor is not giving you a big amount of money, don't overship. Spread it out. Those are the things: credit and expenses.
We have a question from Nori, so I'm just gonna unmute him if he wants to ask on inventory. Go ahead, Nori.
So obviously, people have inventories in different forms. There's basics, there's seasonals, there's fashion. How would you value your seasonals today, knowing that the big discounters are not ready to take in goods now because it takes them, like, let's say 30 days to put it out. They're still not, all doors are open, and you're putting distance between shelf life today on a fashion seasonal item. How would you value it today? Would you carry it? Would you borrow money to carry it? There's a lot of unknowns with that.
It's a great question. Sol, do you wanna take a stab at it?
Well, I don't have too much history to see what to do with seasonal inventory except to hit it hard. Or is it going to be viable if it's fashion? If you were to sell it at a later time, but hit it hard, I mean, is just deeply discount it. Go to an online platform with it, or look for maybe doing, I don't know how well they do a Zulily sale or some other kind of promotional sale that could attract traffic.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried these things in the past. They never amounted to like any significant business. And frankly, when there's like a lot of SKUs and each one you have to get to the right, let's say if you're doing Amazon and you want to build that item to become something with a rating, the problem with fashion is it turns so fast that by the time you get the rating, the item doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's a multi-level build. It takes a bunch of years.
Juan has something to say for that. He's probably sounding like he's getting.
I just want to ask you a question. If this was 2019, how much months of supply or how much inventory would you consider it if the stores were open? Would you consider yourself to have too much inventory for last year? Like, how many units did you go through in 19 versus what you had this year?
The problem is, like, we're in, let's say, 80% pre-sold, 20% inventory.
Okay.
And we just created, with that doubled, as far as the 20% doubled or tripled because a lot of people walked away from orders.
They canceled. So do you have
I have like 3 summers worth of product based on what I think today.
it's a summer item. Okay. So then I'm going to answer the question a little different. I think I don't think you should fall in love with that inventory.
When we learned that 20 years ago, but there's nobody to buy. It's the problem is
right. But I think your first offer is your best offer right now, and a pack and hold might do you justice so that you could sustain it. If you hold that inventory, it doesn't sound like you might be able to stay in business. I don't know how much of it there is in your sales, but I wouldn't fall in love with 3 years worth of supply and sell it slowly. I would look to go to a different down market, maybe Family Dollar, maybe Dollar General if you're selling someone else, and do a liquidation as opposed to holding that. That's what I would do. If you told me you had like a 1 year's worth of supply and you're telling me it's swim, which just finished, so I thought maybe you were talking about fall, so you had some maybe selling this year. If you went opposite equator, you wouldn't really move the needle. So you might have to downgrade and take a loss and move on. That's my quick answer.
All right. Thank you.
Elon, you had something to comment on it? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go with that at all. It's definitely proven on Amazon that the longer a product has been up, the more successful it is. Look at a coffee machine from 2003 that has 14,000 reviews, and look at the newest Nespresso machine that came out 2 days ago, and tell me which one sells more. The answer is the one from 2003. There's a humongous market on the internet. There are no such thing as trends on Amazon. Somebody could be looking for the same pair of sneakers that they bought 7 years ago that they can't find in a store. And in my general opinion, buyers do not dictate trends. Consumers dictate trends. So a buyer coming into your office and telling you what's going to be good means nothing versus having your own website and seeing what you're actually getting orders on. For somebody that was in a predicament like him, I would create tremendous value by creating bundles, whether that means you're giving somebody 12 bathing suits for $20. Somebody will buy that. Just because a buyer tells you that something is out of fashion does not mean that it's out of fashion. And like I said, I think many of us look for products that we bought many years ago that broke or that this or that, and that's the reason that eBay's in business. And using a wholesale mentality to sell online can definitely limit the scope. In general, I find that many SYs, we devalue our own goods. If you go find some Americani that's worked his butt off to get 3 seasons worth of goods in, he's not letting those goods go at a loss. So having a real perceptive value of what the goods are worth to the consumer is also valuable in this situation, but it does depend on how desperate you are to get your money back.
And it's a 3-year supply of one category. Sounds like so maybe you could do a hybrid of what Alon and I are describing.
Sure, but what I'm saying is a 3-year supply, when you make it a 3-pack, turns into a 1-year supply.
Yeah, but yeah. So how's he gonna? So I hear you. How's he gonna get his ratings up when it's not summer for next year? It's gonna take him. Maybe Nuri and Alon.
You know, there's a lot of California is a humongous state. San Diego is warm year round. Again, I got into the import business in the 1990s when my father thought that underwear was the only thing that people bought every day. I think it's safe to say that everybody's kids in this room have about 14 pairs of sneakers minimum. And 20 years ago, we didn't buy 14 pairs of sneakers. We cannot judge the consumer's behavior in 2020. People are definitely swimming in October in San Diego. There's 45 million people in California.
Eli, it's Mark Schall. I'm just going to jump in here. I happen to agree with Alon. You know, I'm in the pajama business. I'm still selling fleece onesies and robes and heavyweight goods. It's June. Things are flying off through Amazon, and you're right. There's a customer for everything. You know, I'm not telling you that you're gonna move 3 seasons of goods in a year, but great thing to build on and to have, and will move inventory. So it's just another outlet to move your goods.
You guys definitely have a point. What I think Nuri is going through that I could relate to is when there's an insurmountable amount of stuff and it's seasonal, it's a very different feeling with the way the banks clamp down on you, the way your customers know how much you have and how long you've had it for. It's just a little different. So I would look at how many units you have, possibly. Now with these guys chiming in and say, let's say you had 100,000 units, maybe you take 25,000 units and you go with that thought process and you do the build simultaneously and get some of the cash back. I think there's a lot of.
Maybe it'd be 1,000-piece stock lots, 2,000-piece stock lots. Get 100 orders and sell them out.
I'm frustrated because I have some businesses that have extremely high level of success through those channels and some that have zero. So it's.
Hey, Lon, are you looking through glasses and general merchandise as compared to the soft goods where demand is really not there? Because there's a difference. Why do I need a bundle of 3 or 6 bathing suits for the $20? You got to look at it through the consumer's eyes. Is that really a value proposition, or I'm going to do a multi-pack for the whole family in different sizes, or what works?
Well, I mean, if I could speak, my expertise in soft goods is more in terms of underwear and babies things. And, you know, I think that moms in general are always, again, I don't know if they're little girls' bathing suits. I don't know if they're this. I don't know if they're that. But there are ways to get creative. And the reality is, just for example, I don't want to take up too much time. If you created one that says bathing suits for the next 3 years and you give them a size 3, a size 4, a size 5, a size 6, and a size 7, and they get 4 of each one, some mother might get excited over that she's able to make money on bathing suits for her kids for the next 4 years.
All right, good.
And the one thing that I wanted to say in regards to what Eli said is, because I know, so when you're retailing, for example, on Amazon, our main strategy is get the cost of our goods back. And then you can write down the balance of it. So if that 100,000 costs you 100,000, our main target is to try to get back 100,000 first, not to move the goods.
Okay. So let's try to move on
So,
now. Thank you.
If I may chime in, I've been an Amazon seller for over 20 years, right? So I understand Nuri's challenge, where if his product selection stems across multiple SKUs in different colorways, one of his biggest challenges is just to get the items up, whether it be product photography, product descriptions, and then being able to get them indexed, right? So rather than go through all the time and effort, I kind of agree with Eli's strategy where liquidate the inventory, but at the same time, you should be considering in this time Amazon as an independent channel and design goods for them where you can put your focus and attention and have it as an alternate channel, right? And I've had success both at wholesale and retail, and I know both the challenges that it takes to get a product moving on Amazon, especially a full line of product stemmed across multiple colors and sizes. So my opinion is liquidate the inventory, lick your wounds, move on, keep Amazon as a viable channel because indeed it is, but in this particular instance, you know, take your first loss, move on, and reset.
Eli, you had another question that you wanted to speak of?
Yeah, so my question is really revolving around value retailers, right? So I've been hearing this buzzword from these value retailers as you're on the grid, right? And they're positioning this as a negotiation tool and telling you you're selected because either your goods have checked, you've been a valued partner, we've did significant business with you in the past, and that's giving them the leverage to ask for ridiculous pricing. And some of the negotiation strategies that they're applying is that we don't want to let people know that you were selected to be on the grid and you're not conforming with what we'd like to see. So the real question becomes is how do we prevent retailers from taking advantage of this circumstance when, to Eli's point, the values don't necessarily need to come down, but they're looking for an opportunity to take advantage and press every button possible.
Man, that's a really great point. It's a great question, and I think everybody's in the same boat right now. I don't think any value channel retailer, and I have one of my other licensees on the phone right now. We work together. That everybody's going through this right now. They want to make more margin because they were closed for all those periods of time, and they want to show the consumer, look, we have even better prices than we had before. I'm a big believer, and I see Alan Safdie's raising his hand. I'm a huge believer in saying we're keeping the retail because nothing changed in manufacturing. If you want a little bit better margin, I understand. So if they were working on 50 points, you know, last year, and want to work on 60 or 55, I'm a big fan of allowing that before they say $850 for $16.99 instead of 10 for 20. I'd rather give them, keep the 20 retail to establish it, make some of the margin back that you've lost, and I'll somehow eat the difference in the meantime to raise your margins as opposed to I don't think changing retails makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Zero for long-term stability. And throwing them the extra margin is a good segue to keeping that price and keeping them happy. So keeping the retail where it should be and keeping them happy at the same time. But you have to be a good poker player. You have to be a good poker player, and hopefully you don't have all the inventory in the world, and you know, and they know it because they get your sheet and they know you have 200,000 units. And they know if TJ Maxx, you know, bailed on it, Ross will come like a vulture. So I think everybody has to dance around that problem, you know, to the best that they can. But I highly recommend don't break. And then one other strategy, which I mentioned earlier, I don't know if everyone was on, was that even if they want to go $16.99 instead of $19.99, I'm just using that one example. Tell them that you want to keep $19.99 and you want to wait and let the customer vote, because the customer will probably buy it at that price too. And then if they don't, then mark it down and we'll hold hands on the way out. So we don't have to give it up front. You could also talk about the difference in marking it down and then reassessing where it is.
I know there's a couple of questions there in the backlog here. There was one talking about negotiating and poker face. We'll talk about with regards to upcoming royalty payments for licensing payments that need to be made, and how you go about negotiating that. And I think it's similar to my strategy. It's similar to what we discussed with the rent. But Eli, I'll let you answer a little to that, and then we'll go to Alan afterwards.
So you want me to get into the licensing portion?
Go into the licensing portion. There's a question up on the board.
The royalties. Okay, so
quarterly payments, or maybe
So I think this is the same answer and the same conversation with your employees as your landlord, as anyone. Understand the problem. Understand it. So if you're let's just take Nuri for example. You have 3 years worth of inventory. You go to your licensor and you say, I have 3 years worth. I can't pay you. I'm not going to be able to sell this. You have to work out something with them so that they're going to get something out of it. The licensor has to get something, and the licensee has to get something. So if that was a licensed product, you would go to the licensor and say, look, I have to sell this for nothing, and I need a low royalty rate to help me get out of it. But
usually built into the contracts.
But the more common question is this: why didn't the government, instead of lending us money, just give us the money and we'll give it to the people? Everybody that has mortgages that they didn't pay, that got frozen 3 months, how does that really help them? It doesn't really help them to get a freeze on 3 months. They should have said, forgiven for 3 months and add 3 months to the back of the mortgage. That's it. Your mortgage.
That's what happened in the car leasing business and many of the car leases.
It's the same thing. So tell your licensor, sorry, I had no sales. My GMR was through the roof. I had no sales for these 3 months. I will take that 3 months and I'll park it in the back. If it was due in 2022, I'll pay you 3 months after that. I'll do the sales in the back end. So that's one way to just make everybody happy. Of course, they may not agree. If you're dealing with the Authentic Brands Group, they'll put a gun to your head with a lawyer and say, sorry, buddy, pay me or you're dead. It's the same way as a landlord that's independent. So everybody has to look at the licensing business and work out a deal that makes sense for both. I think the one I mentioned is by far and away the one that works for most people.
Okay. I think
Eli,
Safdie had a question if you want to.
Does force majeure play a role in licensing, and is there any opportunities to leverage that?
I mean, if you have a clause of force majeure in your contract, and you could prove that forced you to not have a commitment, that's one thing. But I wouldn't go the legal route. That's just that's usually
open up the legal route.
It's usually a very. I have a little experience with this. It's usually a very expensive route to take. I would go the route of negotiating. If you were dealing with a very, very aggressive licensor,
ABG.
Then
ABG.
Let's talk offline.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Alan Safdie had a question. I'm sorry, he had his hands up.
Hi, no problem. I didn't have a question. I want to tell you a little something that happened to me. So I'm lucky enough to get upfront orders from Ross. They give me upfront. And when Corona hit, they called me up like I'm sure everybody else got a call. Cancel everything. Everything's canceled. I said, what do you mean? I got stuff in my warehouse. We brought it in before Chinese New Year. I got stuff in the works on your projections for May and June. I can't cancel. I have July and August projections that I can cancel. I can't cancel the rest. Bottom line was, okay, we agree. We'll take them in November, December, and some in August. No problem. Guy calls me up on Friday. He says, we're ready to get them rolling. We're open some stores. I want a 25% discount. Whoa, 25%. Surely you jest. You got to be kidding me. I didn't make that much. That's what we want, and there's no negotiation. Okay.
It's crazy, Alan. Yeah.
I called him back, and this guy's a big shot up there. So I try to soften him up a little bit, and I'll tell you a story I told him. I try to soften him up. I told him, there was a fella driving in Manhattan in December a very, very cold day, freezing cold. And he had a sports car. It only had 2 seats. He pulled up in front of a bus stop, and it was freezing cold, snow, middle of December, and he saw 3 people at the bus stop. He saw an old man shivering, old man shivering, cold like that. Next to him, he saw a doctor with a doctor bag. He assumed he was going to the hospital to help people. And next to him, he saw his friend, his best friend. He said to himself, I got to pick up someone because it's freezing and it's snowing. I said to this boss, who do you think he picked up? Of course, he had no answer. He said, the doctor, he told me. I said, listen to me. Let me tell you what he did, this guy.
Out of the car.
He got out of the car. He told the doctor, take the keys to my car and drive the old man where he has to go. And me and my best friend will wait here in the cold and take the next bus. I told him, what do you learn from this story? I said, you know what you learn? You learn you got to think of other people. You can't just think of yourself. It's not the time and place when there's Corona to think of yourself. Ross can't just think of himself. Anyway, make a long story longer. At the end of the day, we spoke yesterday. I told him I can't do 25%. He says, I said, well, what are you going to accept? He says, you tell me. Tells me, you tell me. I said, I don't have to let you know. I always learned, don't get put on the spot. Tell him I'll get back to you. So I got back to him today. He says, by the way, don't tell me 5% either. Okay, I was really nervous now. What do you do? You know, he shoots high. Yeah, don't tell me 5% either. You know, the guy shoots high. Anyway, I'll make the story short. I'm sure people have questions. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to get the Chinese involved. Bottom line is, I called the Chinese. They were hemming and hawing. I got 10% out of them, and I gave him 2% from me. We ended up at 12 because I figured he's going to accept half. That he'll accept. I could have got less. What's the moral of the story? They start super high, and we're supposed to go really low. I didn't do that, but at least I got out of the problem. So I'm just wondering if anybody else had the same problem.
First of all, we love you. That's a great story, and that's a very clever way of getting out of your problem. Everybody has to find their version of that. So we're also going to want you as an Exceed advisor.
I just negotiated 12% that I didn't have to give. I should have told them, listen, we'll sell the shoes in China, in inland. Then you'll have.
But wait, Alan, did they change the retail on the product?
So that's a very good question. He asked me, can we change the tickets? The tickets say $20. So Eli was saying something, and I agree with him, but I told him like this: you can always go down. And number two, why would you want to change the retail right now? You'd lose square footage. Instead of selling 100,000 pair 20, you'll sell 100,000 at 16.9. Why would you want to do that? Like Eli said, let the customer determine. So we didn't bring it up. I told him I could not change the tickets of $20. And let's see what's going to be. I believe Eli sent me something about Las Vegas. They opened up a store. People are waiting online. I think the early reads are people are looking to go out to these off prices.
That's what I believe. There's pent-up demand. People want to go out and buy something. Maybe they still have their own stimulus money. There was a question on the board just exactly to what you were talking about, Alan, about if the retailer confirmed that they were going to go out at a higher price, but when it got to the floor, it was out at the lower price. So they're wondering what a strategy might be for that. And I don't think you have any control over it.
Exactly. You can't have no control except tell them, listen, why would you want to give away $3 when you don't have to today? Wait to see what the customer says, like Eli said. It'd be stupid on your part. Why would you want to do that?
Now, I've seen some letters come out from some retailers, and this is part of questioning on the board, asking for a discount on their invoices that were due and for goods that were shipped before Corona, and saying, we're having this hard time. We're willing to pay your invoice now. I don't want to mention names, but I've seen the letters directly. We're going to take 20% off your invoice. So how are retailers, have you seen retailers trying to do that? Used to be an old Joyce Leslie strategy. The buyer would call you right before the payment when it was due and say, hey, I'm trying to pay this bill, but I need some money. The goods didn't sell through so well.
Sounds like Rainbow today.
Anyway, this
I would watch another thing, Sal. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would watch if anybody's factored, I would watch your receivables when they come in, because there are a lot of retailers going to just deduct just because they can. So you got to watch your receivables, make sure you're not getting chargebacks for nothing. I got one from Macy's for 40 grand for zero. I called the buyers, what are you kidding me? You signed the bill of lading in January. It's June. What do you mean you didn't get the goods? So you got to watch.
Kmart used to do that before, years and years ago. They used to just take off money off the invoice, and then you have to fight it.
And then go fight for it back. But that was
we had a whole discussion on the credit crisis, guys. If anybody has any issues with that, I'm not in a rush today, so this was supposed to only go till 2, so I'm around.
Jack had some comments actually, so we're still around here. Jack, he's been waiting for a while, but he can go off mute.
Okay, so just with regard to the credit, I think the same way the retailers are being very opportunistic in pricing and trying to use all the leverage they have, they've been doing that also with terms. And that's part of what's causing the factors and the other insurers to pull back. So they have the liquidity, they drew down on their lines of credit, the retailers, and they're still saying we want additional 90-day terms. So that's why there's friction, and it's going to take a little time until that settles.
That only adds to the domino effect of it. It's I don't think there's one person I've spoken to that doesn't either have, extending major terms or can't get enough credit on something to ship. Right now, it's a huge problem. But everybody should also, like Alan made it work with his factory. Everything has to pair up. Your company can't be the only one taking the hit. Paying full rent, paying the licensor full amount, giving the factory what they want exactly, giving the customer an extra 90 days. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not workable. Everybody has to figure out their own way how to get out of the multifaceted problem right now.
So do you think that retailers are shooting for the hip from a timing perspective because it's still fresh out of the gate, and they'll have a different tune once they see sell-through and performance and things start opening up? And do you think things will revert back to, let's call them standard terms, because we've been asked for 90 days plus versus the traditional 30, and I feel that they're just shooting from the hip because of the unknown. And as things start to open up, I think they will revert back, similar to what happened when retailers froze payments for a short period of time and realized what adverse effect it would have on their future relationships with their supply chain.
It's a great question, and it's a great comment. There's no real answer to that, but I will say that when TJ Maxx says our new terms are 90 days, the most liquid company that I think, I don't know, I think they have $1.5 billion in cash, and they're asking for all payments to go 90 days. I think the answer is yes to that. And I think the ability for a credit-worthy customer to ask for more terms is good. But I think to the same effect, you have to go to China or your factory and get the same thing married up. So I do think they're taking advantage, but I also think that as Jack Hidayah was just mentioning, there is a credit facility issue where the more terms you give them, the more you're gonna have to be into them in total amount of credit. So then the macro or the total amount, the aggregate amount could be an issue. But if you're talking about like a super great credit-worthy customer and they want an extra 30 days, then you get the 30 days from the factory. But if you're saying it's Macy's who only has $1 million in credit and they want to get 180 days, they're never going to be able to turn the inventory, and you're never going to be able to get enough credit to ship them. So
alternatively, Eli, you could offer them a discount. You give them another 1% for some type of shorter terms, and then negotiate that way. But if you look at the picture from 30,000 feet up, right now there's been a lot of quantitative easing that's been happening from the government support. There's over $1 trillion in the past month and a half that's been put out into the marketplace in whatever forms. If I compare that back to the 2008 crisis, there was only $300 or $400 billion that was done over a 1.5 to 2 year period. And at this point, there's a lot of additional cash that's out there. It's either going to make your goods worth more, or or also stave off some inflation or increase inflation. But there's a lot of money that's out there. There is pent up demand. Consumers, I guess, get a thrill out of buying, or many consumers do, and that's going to come around. It's a matter of holding that up, but kicking that can forward and giving them extra terms is not necessarily the answer.
The big
idea
that everyone has to focus on for this year. I just want to go back before we go. You have to survive this year. Not every company is going to survive this year. I'm sorry to say it. I hope I'm wrong, but many companies will be falling by the wayside. The companies that survive are going to be the companies that are leaner, that are looking at their expenses, that are figuring out creative ways to be able to maybe extend more credit, maybe discount, get a prepayment if you can't get the credit on it, moving, not just giving up all your inventory to being a bad poker player. Maintain your retails, do more variable expenses as opposed to fixed. How does a company survive that was doing 100 million and now does 50? That's the only way to do it, is to really figure a way to keep every bill that crosses your desk should be negotiated. Everything. The new normal is cash is king. Cash is king. Last year, they would have laughed at you. They said, no, screw you. I'll wait for the money. I'm not going to pay. Right now, your landlord wants the money. Your licensor wants the money. Your factories are dying for money. Negotiate better. The RMB is now 714. It was 690, a very short time ago. So when you're paying your bill, they're getting if you were paying them 100 grand, they're getting an extra 40 or 50,000 RMB for that same money. So negotiate your price. If your price was $3 FOB, try to get it for $2.50. It's a survival mentality. Keep your rate. Don't let those margins go down. Watch your expenses. Get your hands dirty. Try to, if you think you can get by on less employees, do it. Take that chance. There's nothing wrong with bringing them back. You could bring them back if you have to.
But if you don't survive, there's nothing to talk about in the future.
Yeah, 2021 and beyond is the RMB is 716 now. Alan just sent it to me. That's China's way to survive this crisis. China's way to survive, they have one way. Raise. It keeps their factories in business better, and you should expect better pricing.
But in your opinion, you're saying rather than scale back, whether expenses, wouldn't the more prudent approach be rebuild infrastructure to be ready for a more robust 2021, and either pivot what you're doing and invest in your businesses while other people are starting to either wean down or go out of business and come out stronger, leaner, and smarter? So it's about building and investing in infrastructure versus reducing your infrastructure. This way, when the turnaround comes, you'll be better prepared and be able to, leap forward.
That's a luxury, Eli.
There's some companies that may be able to do that. You might be one of them. But 9 out of 10 companies I know, if they don't do what I'm saying or what they think is smart, they won't be around next year. And next year, we're saying will exist. I guarantee you, your competitors, brands. You know how many brands that weren't available? They're calling me right now. We want to give you this one. We want to give you that one. Centric just went bankrupt. Do you know how many brands are available and how many categories right now? You have to survive this year. You have to survive this year. If you could do that now, and you're capitalized, and you could have a good growth plan, then go for it. But 9 out of 10 companies I know, and Saul, I'll let you say something here, but I'm all about survive, then thrive.
I think the pivot is more around your product offering and looking at different categories of expansion, either narrowing or widening that product offering, looking at other categories that are more important today than what you might have been in. That's a hard look. But investing in the infrastructure, maybe one thing that can come across from investing in infrastructure is the capacity. And that's all you're looking at. I think there's going to be a lot of excess capacity. I know we're going to try to wrap this up in a few minutes. It might be Elon may have another comment. We'll let Elon go and then
Just
we'll give it
two
to
quick
Erwin.
comments. First of all, you know, if Eli's saying a lot of companies are not going to survive and whatever, if you're one of those guys, I would highly recommend that before you drown, you reach out to people that may be more stable, more capable, more able than you to share your profits as opposed to die. That would be a very strong recommendation. I don't know everybody's exact situation, but if you are going to drown, I'm quite positive that there are people around that are interested in profitable orders or that can hold X amount of goods for X amount of time to not ruin your entire balance sheet and sell your goods at 80 off, etc. So I just wanted to say that people should probably reach out to other people and let them know if there's a drastic problem before that drastic problem occurs as opposed to after. That's just a general.
Right. I have on Elon. That's a great statement, Elon. I'll tell you that in the 14 years I'm running Exceed Network, 2008-9, when the world was coming to an end again, exactly what you said. We had about 30 or 40 companies come to us and said, we need a lifeline. We have POs, we have this, the banks pulled the plug, what do we do, da, 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 da. And we were able, through our network, to put together about a half a dozen deals, and today they're large divisions of companies. So if anybody out there has something going on like that, privately get in touch with me, and let's see the drill of what's going on. And, you know, our board and our volunteer structure and our bandwidth has that ability to reach out to people that might be interested in a tuck-in acquisition or a take-in, or, you know, a company that's relative to what they do that they could add value. So a great point. I love that point. Thank you.
So I just want to.
Can I share the screen? Am I allowed to share the screen now?
Yeah, you can share a screen on the bottom. You'll see it.
Okay. So take a look. Take a look at.
I just mentioned one more thing, Eli.
Everybody should look at this. Everybody should look at this.
Centrics, yeah.
Do you guys see this?
Yeah.
111, right?
Wow. These guys just won Chapter 11. They're a $2 billion company, and I just want everyone to understand what's happening. The industry has changed so much. If you survive, there's going to be opportunities available. But the question is if. It's not a question of for sure. So just be very smart. There's so many opportunities out there, but you have to wait for the right one and be in a financial position to do it. I'm just highly recommending.
Thank you.
The first thing I was going to say is don't let yourself drown. The second thing I was going to say is it's better to get half of something than all of nothing. And that has been a very difficult thing or lesson for me personally to learn. But sometimes getting yourself in a jam and giving up half of something and ending up with half is better than ending up with zero, or even worse, getting yourself in financial trouble or ruining your credit or something of that nature. And then secondly, you know, I think when we talk about investing in infrastructure, one of the primary topics should be technology. And that's, you know, that's it. Because you can't beat software that sells your goods for you, no matter how good your salesman is.
Right.
Good. That's a good point. I think separately, Erwin and Anel, I think Eli Sakala, I'm nominating him, and I'm nominating Alon to do an Amazon expert.
Oh,
These
we're
guys,
working on one now. I'd love to touch base with them to get involved.
I highly.
Erwin, you can rehash the 2007 version we did at the event. Do you remember that one?
No, Eli did it to us, right? He did it to us about 30 years ago. Oh my! Well, no.
And there's a lot of people that I know that are successful entrepreneurs. So thank God.
So Eli came on board that time, and he was like really like one of the new guys on the block in that game. And we did it on Kings Highway in our old headquarters. And everyone said, "Erwin, what are you doing? You're gonna get 10 people." We had 150 people that night, remember? And they were in the hallways, and it was double seating. It was crazy. That's right. 13 years.
All right, guys, we're going to be saying our final remarks from Erwin, Eli, and Saul, and we're going to be wrapping up for today. But thank you guys all very, very much for joining us. And thank you, of course, to our panelists, Eli and Saul, and for all of those who have contributed throughout. I know that many of you have, said your own 2 cents on certain topics, so we appreciate it. And I just wanted to remind you guys, we're going to be sending out a survey. It will probably take you less than a minute and 30 seconds to fill out, just so we can know how we're doing. But Erwin, Saul, and Eli, go ahead and say your final remarks.
So I'll just jump in one. I just want, first of all, it was dynamite today. The interactive part was like amazing. And that was our goal from day one. We've been doing this for about 2 months now. We started with Mark Adry, then Harry, Hal, and Eli and Saul. So what we're trying to do is, and we've been doing is, because it's changing every day, like today's conversation versus 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, we're continuing to do this. So any ideas, please answer the surveys. Please tell us what you think you'd like to know, what you'd like to see. And hopefully we're on target to do one of these every week or 10 days. So, and rotate speakers and rotate people. So again, I want to thank everybody. I stay safe and well, and like be optimistic. And I'm sure a year from now, everybody will be in a growth mode and it will be great. So Eli and Saul, thank you. You got the table.
All right, I'll do a wrap, then Eli, you come in right behind me. I want to thank everybody first for participating. It's good to have a network behind you where you can share ideas and look at strategies. What I see mostly it's going concern on today's call is just about the now, and I want to bring it up to say just read the world. It's a fluid situation. Look for opportunities. Put your opportunity glasses on and say, what is happening out there? How can I make a difference? What are the product opportunities? What are the alternative distribution methods? How do I pivot my business? Do I invest in infrastructure? Absolutely. Do I invest in employees? Something to be concerned with. Or just to reiterate, it really depends on your personal situations and how you're going to take it forward. The key is to survive and grow into the future. Thank you.
Erwin, Anel, I want to say thank you for organizing this whole thing. And my last comments are very simple. It's the same. I'm going to be very clear. Just make it through this year. Don't be so aggressive. Watch your expenses. Talk to your buyers. Hold your prices. Don't dump your inventory if you don't have to. Like Nuri, he's in a different situation. The credit market is a big challenge. Ask us questions. Network with us. Let us know. Just make sure you're watching your expenses and your credit coverage is in line with what you're shipping. Don't take big risks this year. Survive it, and then next year a lot more is gonna be available for the companies that are still around. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Happy holiday.
Thanks. All the best.
Anel,
Yes.
how are you?
So right now we still have 12 participants with us. Are we having someone stay after?
I just want to talk to you and Erwin if you guys are still available for a
But
minute.
is there anyone in the actual that you want to speak to?
Not me. There were some people who wanted to talk about ABG, but that's just a separate conversation. It was a second person as well.
Yeah. I texted like with 5 or 6 different people. They asked me for like sideline advice. That's not something I would.
Okay, so let me.
That was the other one that wanted to be added to the conversation.
One moment. Let me walk everybody out.
That was good, guys. That was interactive.
Erwin walked himself out.
That was good. Saul, you were great.
Yeah, you were better, baby.
The participation was so much better this time. People really were,
more comfortable
about their problems. It's the best. That's all we could ask for.
Yeah, and it's nice
Right.
people were hearing that other people are dealing with the same exact issues that they are. So I think that was really
Yeah.
important in terms of like,
Yeah.
or knowing that they're not alone, because a lot of people, I'm sure right now, feel like I'm the only one dying and everyone else is surviving.
Right.
You
I
guys
mean,
did
that
fantastic. I think you guys answered the questions like head on. You rolled with the punches of random interjections of everyone's opinion. So I take Eli's side, this one side. But I think you guys handled it really, really well.
It's a lot of people that I like. Three of those people I deal with every day.
I assumed that you guys know each other. But it was, I think it was great. You guys did really, really well. How did you guys feel? Did you feel like you guys felt comfortable? You guys felt good?
Very.
Very good.
I really felt like we helped people, so that's the main thing. No one wanted to get off. It was like 90 minutes in, and everybody was still like,
shocked.
you know.
I was shocked. People stayed for the whole.
Yeah.
A lot of times, people come, they go, they leave for a few minutes. For the majority of the time, we had 40 people.
We're both very approachable guys, and I think that came off. It's like,
yeah,
you know, just what's your
people are
problem?
more comfortable to be vulnerable with you guys, and that's a good thing, because then you were able to really see what the problems were and give them an honest answer. And I think, Eli, also what you said was like important, waking people up to the reality of the fact that no, not everyone's going to survive, and then also the fact that it's better to bite the bullet and get what Elon said, like half of something rather than all of nothing. I think that was really, really important.
Absolutely. But that's hard for people who run their business for a long time.
Alon really wants to help us. Alon wants to help us. He's a very bright guy.
I like him.
We should put him on.
Is that him who lived in Hong Kong?
Yeah. His uncle lived there. He moved there. His uncle lives there, so he ran the factories. His father, like, basically, you know, was half his year was there, and then Alon grew up in Hong Kong. Like, he's very he's a wheeler dealer.
My first round of Amazon stuff was with all his father's goods. They were dumping out a couple of lines of Rene Raffaele goods, and I helped them out. I built all their listings, so it shows up.
You did?
Yeah.
From your perspectives, guys, what would you think we could do differently in the future that would make it better? Was there anything from your end that you would have wanted to change or improve?
No, the whole goal was to get people talking and to get into their minds, and I think we accomplished that. I think we got an A on that, where maybe like a B and C we did last time.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you guys read through them, by the way, because I sent that to you in the email. People had sent you guys questions ahead of time that they wanted to be addressed. I don't know if you guys actually did address them. Did you guys see them?
I saw
that. I put that into my topics. I didn't really like get into.
That's fine. It doesn't have to. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm starving. I'm gonna go have lunch. I'll see you guys.
Okay. Bye, Eli.
Good job.
Thanks, guys. Well done. Really. Well done. Thank you so much.